Deep in the Canadian north, the rivers are bleeding. Millions of gallons of water, stained a thick metallic orange, are drowning the ancient taiga. But this is not a natural geological disaster. This is the calculated work of a single, relentless invader. Today we will watch how one highly armored architect rewires an entire ecosystem in just 14 hours, and witness the astonishing, impenetrable fortress it must finish building before the deadly Arctic night falls. The ancient frontier. Deep in the Canadian north, the rivers are bleeding. The Mackenzie River Basin is not a minor wilderness channel. It is Canada's largest river basin, a vast northern drainage system covering about 1.8 million square kilometers, nearly 1/5 of the country's landmass. Here, in the Northwest Territories, the dark boreal taiga reaches its northern limit and begins to break apart into open Arctic tundra. Black spruce stands in dense, uneven walls. Beyond them, the land flattens into sedges, mud, wind, and water. For millennia, the permafrost held the basin like a frozen vault. Inside it were minerals, old plant matter, and iron locked away from oxygen. Now, as the banks thaw and collapse, that buried chemistry enters the river. The water turns cloudy, heavy, and orange. Oxidized iron gives it the color of rust. At the edge of this rusting water, a boreal owl withdraws from the last darkness. It is small, only about 21 to 28 centimeters long, with a wingspan of roughly 55 to 62 centimeters, but it carries one of the most specialized hunting systems in the northern forest. Its ear openings are not level. One sits higher on the skull, the other lower, allowing the owl to place sound in 3 dimensions. In a forest where fog erases distance and spruce trunks block vision, hearing becomes a map. The owl slips back into the black spruce without a sound. Below it, the smaller world is already recording the same transformation. Dew gathers on dying spruce needles. Orange groundwater seeps through exposed roots. Peat moss holds the mineral-stained moisture like a living sponge. In the mud, bubbles rise from thawing organic matter and burst quietly against the cold surface. The basin is not only changing in its rivers, it is changing in every root, every puddle, every breath of wet soil. Then the sound of the river begins to thin. The current should keep cutting through the permafrost banks, carrying iron, mud, and ancient carbon downstream. Instead, the water slows, the surface flattens. Mist hangs over it without being broken. Something has stopped the flow. From the orange stillness, a dark head rises. A North American beaver glides forward, low in the water, its dense fur sealed against the cold. The river has not reached a lake. It has reached an architect. The Great Impoundment. Where the orange current should keep cutting through the Mackenzie River Basin, it now slows against a wall of wood, mud, and instinct. The thawing permafrost still bleeds oxidized iron and organic tannins into the water. But here the flow no longer belongs entirely to gravity. It has been seized by a North American beaver. At first, the animal seems too small to alter a basin. Even a large adult may weigh only 16 to 30 kilograms and measure about 1 to 1.2 meters long. Yet this is the largest rodent in North America and the second largest rodent on Earth after South America's capybara. On the mud bank, its body is low, heavy, and awkward. But the moment it enters the water, the design changes. Webbed hind feet drive it forward. Its broad, scaly tail steadies its body like a rudder, then becomes a brace when the animal rises to work on land. In water, a beaver can swim at roughly 10 kilometers per hour and remain submerged for up to 15 minutes. Its small ears and nostrils can close underwater. A transparent membrane protects its eyes like built-in goggles. Its dense waterproof fur traps air close to the skin, helping it work in cold northern water where every movement costs heat. Then the beaver turns toward the forest. Its orange incisors meet the trunk of a willow and begin their slow, mechanical work. These teeth never stop growing, and their outer enamel contains iron-rich material that helps protect them from cracking under pressure. The front of the tooth is harder than the softer material behind it, so each bite wears the tooth into a sharp edge. The beaver does not need a blade, its skull carries one. Wood chips fall into the mud. The sound is small at first, wet gnawing, then sharper cracks, then a deeper failure inside the trunk. A branch gives way and drops toward the bank. What was once part of the taiga canopy becomes building material. The beaver drags it backward through the sludge. This is where the animal earns its title as one of nature's great ecological engineers. It is not simply collecting food, it is a moving structure from forest to river. Sticks are pushed into the current, saplings are wedged between older branches, stones hold the base. Wet permafrost mud is packed into every opening by the beaver's front paws. Small, dexterous hands built not for swimming, but for gripping, digging, carrying, and sealing. Behind the dam, the Orange River begins to rise. The fast channel spreads outward, losing speed as it fills the low ground. A narrow river becomes a broad, stagnant lake. The black spruce at the edge of the water no longer stand beside the basin, they stand inside it. Their roots drown first, then the lower trunks darken. Around them, the new pond holds the sky in a flat, metallic reflection. The beaver keeps working. It dives, resurfaces, drags another branch, and disappears again into the mist. Water trickles through the wooden face of the dam in dozens of small streams, but the larger force has already been captured. The river can still move, but it must now move on the beaver's terms. At the base of the structure, life begins to gather around the change. A wood frog remains still on a rotting birch log, protected by the damp air rising from the new pond. Tiny invertebrates occupy the wet edges. Mosquito larvae will soon find the slow water ideal. The first microfauna are already responding to the same hydrological disruption that will later draw moose, muskrats, pike, wolves, and bears. This is the paradox of the beaver's kingdom. The dam is a wall, but it also becomes a nursery. It blocks the current, yet creates habitat. It drowns trees, yet invites new life into the flooded margins. From the muddy bank, a grizzly bear passes in the distance, drawn by scent and decay. It is not yet part of the conflict. For now, it is only a shadow moving along the edge of the architect's new kingdom. The beaver does not look up for long. It presses more mud into the dam, sealing another leak, turning wet earth into pressure, pressure into depth, and depth into safety. Somewhere behind the wall, a lodge is taking shape. A dome of branches and mud that may rise more than 2 meters above the water, with entrances hidden beneath the surface. It is not merely a shelter, it is a fortress built from hydrology. The great impoundment has begun. The river has not been destroyed, it has been detained, lifted and transformed into a living stronghold still under construction. The drowned grazing grounds. Behind the beaver's wall, the river begins to behave like something else. What had once moved forward now spreads sideways. The cloudy orange water climbs through the low ground, swallowing roots, moss, and the bases of black spruce trunks. A channel becomes a pond. A pond becomes a flooded margin. And in that quiet expansion, the architect's work reaches far beyond its own lodge. The first giant to enter this new geography is the moose. It steps into the shallows with the slow confidence of an animal built for difficult ground. A large northern bull can stand close to 2 meters at the shoulder and weigh hundreds of kilograms, making it the largest member of the deer family. Its legs, designed for snow, muskeg and fallen timber, now become tools for wading through the beaver's engineered wetland. Each step sinks into orange mud. Each movement sends small rings across the stagnant lake. Then the head lowers.   .  . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . The moose pushes its muzzle beneath the surface and pulls at submerged aquatic macrophytes. These plants matter for more than calories. In many northern landscapes, terrestrial browse is poor in sodium, while aquatic vegetation can provide the minerals a large herbivore cannot easily obtain from twigs and leaves. Around the moose, the drowned forest stands as evidence of the cost. Black spruce no longer marks the edge of the water. They stand inside it, their trunks grey, vertical and lifeless. Their roots, once anchored in frozen soil, now disappear into the dark pool. From above, the place looks like a graveyard. From the shore, it feels like a forest paused in the moment after drowning. A snowshoe hare freezes beside a felled trunk, its large hind feet pressed into the wet moss. The hare does not move. Stillness is its first defense. Speed is the second, but in this flooded margin, roots are broken by water, fallen branches and soft mud. A red fox appears along a downed trunk, stepping lightly above the mud. It does not need to enter the water. It uses the beaver's damage differently, as a raised bridge through the wet shoreline. And still, life moves in. A sandhill crane works the shallow edge with a long, deliberate bill, probing the mud where the new water has softened the ground. With a wingspan of about 2 meters, it is large enough to command the open wetland, but its feeding is precise. A series of quiet tests into silt, roots, insects, and small aquatic life. The beaver's flood has widened the table. A North American river otter slides along the muddy embankment, using the steep, wet bank as if it were made for play. Dense underfur and waterproof guard hairs protect it in cold aquatic environments, while whiskers help detect movement in dark water. The otter does not build this place. It inherits the beaver's construction and turns it into a hunting route. But not every traveler benefits. At the outer edge of the flooded basin, boreal woodland caribou approach the waterline and stop. They are smaller than moose, often about 1.0 to 1.2 meters at the shoulder and 110 to 210 kilograms, but they are shaped by distance. Their broad, crescent-shaped hooves help them cross snow and soft ground. Their digestive system is adapted to a northern diet that can include lichens and other low-growing plants. Yet their movement depends on geography. A path that once crossed firm taiga now ends in a broad, still lake. The beaver has not chased them. It has deleted the route. They shift along the edge, searching for a way around the new water. The same dam that feeds the moose forces the caribou to redraw its path. Here, the beaver's hydrological disruption becomes more than a change in water depth. It becomes a change in decision-making. Near the saturated perimeter, the smaller world answers as well. A wood frog remains still on a rotting birch log, its damp skin protected by the humidity rising from the pond. Moss drinks the orange seepage. Slugs move through the wet decay left by felled timber. Mosquito larvae develop in the shallow, unmoving water where current no longer washes them away. The flooded grazing ground is not only for giants, it is a nursery for the nearly invisible. Then the tone of the basin changes. The wind weakens, the pond flattens. The air grows heavy over the stagnant water. From the reedy edges, millions of tundra mosquitoes rise. This is the interruption, the swarm that stops the giants. The hum builds until it becomes the dominant sound of the wetland. The moose stands deeper in the shallows, partly using water as relief from heat and insects. The crane lowers its activity. The otter lies exposed on damp mud, cooling through contact with the wet ground. Even the distant predators begin to lose their advantage. The grizzly bear withdraws into shade. The grey wolves, built for endurance across open land, find the flooded margins, heat, mud and insects working against them. For a moment, the beaver does not need to defend its kingdom. The kingdom itself does it. Its dam has slowed the river. Its pond has drowned the spruce. Its water has fed moose, diverted caribou, invited crane and otter, and bred the swarm that now presses every warm-blooded body into stillness. Above the surface, the flooded world has become a grazing ground, a barrier, a refuge, and a trap. But beneath the orange water, the drowned roots continue downward. The beaver's work has another level, darker, quieter, and far more dangerous. The new lake is not only spreading across the land, it is building a submerged labyrinth. The submerged labyrinth. A North American beaver dives beneath the cloudy orange water with a willow branch locked between its iron-reinforced incisors. It is following a route it has cut into the flooded margin. A narrow underwater road through mud, drowned roots, and black spruce shadows. The dam stops the river. The lodge protects the colony. But the canals connect everything. They let the beaver move timber without crossing open mud, where wolves, lynx, and bears would have the advantage. On land, a branch can weigh the animal down. Underwater, buoyancy carries part of the load, and the beaver turns the pond itself into a transport system. The branch slides through rust-colored murk. Around it, the old forest still stands, but only as a skeleton. Black spruce roots hang below the surface like drowned fingers. Cut stems lie across the benthic floor. The beaver pushes the willow deeper and wedges it into cold mud near the lodge. The winter food cache is the beaver's buried pantry. Before ice closes the pond, the animal anchors branches underwater so the colony can feed without leaving the safety of the lodge. Bark and cambium become winter rations. The system only works if the water remains deep enough. If the pond drains, the cache is exposed. If the entrance freezes shut, the lodge becomes a trap. If the dam fails, the entire underwater plan begins to collapse. A smaller body slips into the same canal. A muskrat moves through the beaver's infrastructure, using a road it did not build. Weighing roughly 0.6 to 2 kilograms, it is far lighter than the beaver, but it shares the same edge world between land and water. Its laterally flattened tail helps steer through the shallows. Its small body fits where the beaver's bulk cannot. It feeds along the wet margins, then vanishes back into the canal when open water becomes dangerous. The beaver has created access. The muskrat turns that access into shelter. Among the submerged branches, a northern pike waits. It is not built like a constant swimmer. It is built like a trap held under tension. The dorsal and anal fins sit far back near the tail, giving the fish explosive acceleration over a short distance. In clear water, prey might detect the outline. Here the beaver pond works in the predator's favor. Mud, iron-stained water, tannins, dead roots, and cut timber break the shape of the hunter. A small fish passes through the gap. The pike does not follow. It holds. Then the body launches. For a moment, the submerged labyrinth becomes a mouth. The beaver has not created a predator, but it has created the structure a predator needs: shadow, obstruction, narrow passages, and still water. At the dam's edge, the same structure creates a different crisis. A sockeye salmon drives itself toward the blocked current. Its anadromous migration depends on movement, from ocean feeding grounds back into freshwater, where spawning must be completed before the body's energy is spent. An adult sockeye is often about 45 to 76 centimeters long and may weigh roughly 1.8 to 6.8 kilograms. That mass is built for endurance, not for solving a wall of branches, stones, mud, and shallow leaks. The salmon surges into a thin spillway. It fails. It tries again, thrashing in water too shallow to cover its body. The dam has broken the river into false choices. Trickles, side flows, gaps that sound like passage but do not open far enough. Each attempt burns energy. Each flash of its body becomes easier to see. Above the drowned spruce, a bald eagle waits. With a wingspan of roughly 1.8 to 2.3 meters, it does not need to enter the water to control the moment. It reads disturbance from above, a tail slap in the shallows, a red body twisting against orange flow, a fish delayed where it should have passed quickly. The eagle drops only when the struggle has already done most of the work. Talons reach for the exhausted salmon. This is the true function of the submerged labyrinth. It is not one habitat. There are several outcomes locked into the same water. For the beaver, it is a supply route and a food cache. For the muskrat, it is a borrowed cover. For the northern pike, it is ambush geometry. For the sockeye salmon, it is obstruction. For the bald eagle, it is an opportunity. A common loon appears on the open surface of the beaver lake. It floats low in the cloudy orange water, almost fused to the reflection of the drowned spruce. Unlike the eagle above it, the loon belongs to the water itself. Its legs are set far back on the body, powerful for diving but awkward on land. On solid ground, it is clumsy. On open water, it becomes precise. The beaver surfaces near the lodge. Behind it, the canals remain open. The cache is anchored. The underwater entrances are hidden. The dam still holds the pressure that keeps the whole system submerged. For now, the labyrinth works. But every route, every food branch, every hidden entrance depends on one wall of wood and mud. If that wall breaks, the underwater world will drain first, and the fortress above it will be exposed. The breached fortress. And then the wall breaks. Not at the lodge, not where the beavers sleep, but at the dam. The one structure holding every hidden entrance, every canal, every food cache, and every layer of protection beneath the cloudy orange water. The grizzly bear reaches the wooden face first. It moves across the dam with the heavy confidence of an animal that does not need the water to protect it. Its claws tear through wet bark and packed mud, ripping into the decaying timber where insects and larvae hide. To the bear, the structure is not architecture. It is rotten wood, scent, and food. But to the beaver colony, it is the foundation of the entire world. One log shifts. A seal opens. The pressure behind the dam finds the gap. At first, water leaks through in thin orange lines. Then the breach widens, mud dissolves, branches tremble. The dam exhales with a low, tearing rush as the beaver lake begins to drain back into the channel below. The submerged labyrinth fails from the edges inward. Canals grow shallow. Drowned roots appear again. The winter food cache, once hidden in cold depth, moves closer to the surface. Around the lodge, the protective moat shrinks. The entrance that was meant to remain underwater begins to show through the falling waterline. For the first time, the fortress has a door. The grey wolves see it. They emerge from the black spruce edge, no longer held back by deep water. The mudflat between shore and lodge is still soft, but it is no longer impossible. What the dam had denied them, a route, is appearing in front of them. A beaver tail strikes the water. The sound is sharp, flat, and immediate. It is not a warning to the forest. It is an order to the colony. The beavers leave the lodge and swim toward the damage. They do not flee from the breach. They enter it. One carries a cut branch into the current. Another dives and returns with mud. Another forces loose timber into the broken face of the dam, placing material where the water is strongest. The current fights back. A branch slips free, mud tears away. Orange water surges through the opening and pulls the repair apart before it can settle. Behind the colony, the lodge remains exposed. Ahead, the wolves continue across the wet ground. The beavers work faster. Stones are pushed into the base. Branches are wedged sideways across the gap. Mud is packed against wood until the flow begins to lose force. The breach does not close all at once. It tightens in stages, from rush to spill to trickle. Then the pond begins to rise. The mudflat narrows. The lodge entrance sinks. The hidden doorway disappears beneath the orange surface again. The wolves stop at the edge of the returning water. Their moment has passed. One by one, they turn back toward the spruce shadows, leaving tracks that the rising pond slowly erases. The grizzly bear has opened the fortress, but not long enough to break it. By night, the dam holds again. The canals remain connected. The winter cache stays submerged. The lodge is sealed behind water, mud, timber, and depth. The fortress was never safe because it could not fail. It survived because the beavers rebuilt the river before the predators could cross it. The architect has successfully locked the rusting rivers into a peaceful stillness for the night. But when winter shatters this basin, a completely different, silent phantom takes control of the ice. To see how the Canada lynx dominates the frozen months, click the video on your screen right now. The true freeze is just beginning.